You can pick this figure up and more from Dan's Dinosaur. And remember, if you order anything from Dan's, tell him Dino Scream sent you in the notes comment section of your order. It greatly helps out the channel and it's very much appreciated. Hey everyone, welcome back to another PNSO review. Today we're taking a look at Gamba, the Carcharodontosaurus. Yeah, I know I'm really late with this review. I've had this model for a few weeks now and it just keeps getting pushed off. I kept getting newer stuff in, but I'm finally reviewing it. This figure is kind of an anomaly for PNSO. Usually when they announce a new figure, it's available to order within a couple days to a week after announcement. This figure was actually announced months ago with a summer release, and they only done that for a couple other figures up to date. And PNSO has been kind of quiet the last couple of weeks, but I'm sure they're gearing up for more rapid-fire releases to make sure our wallets are dead. So let's just go over the package really quick. This figure is part of the Prehistoric Animal Models line, number 50. Got a nice picture of Gamba on the front. On top of the box, you have a close-up of the head. And just like all the other figures, you do get a nice little pamphlet with some kitty facts about Carcharodontosaurus. And then open it up, you do get a nice picture of the known skeletal material. Most of this material was destroyed in World War II. Everyone talks about Stromer Spinosaurus holotype getting destroyed in the bombing, but not a lot of people remember that the original Carcharodontosaurus material was also destroyed. And then on the back of the pamphlet, you get a nice poster of the Carcharodontosaurus. Always find it kind of weird when PNSO gives us artwork of their theropods. They're always, kind of feathered. You can see some feathers on the top of the neck of the Carcharodontosaurus, and I'm kind of glad that they're not translating that to their figures, because I don't think it will look that great, and there's no evidence that Carcharodontosaurus had feathers, so I'm fine with the figure not having any. So enough about the packaging, let's take a closer look at this figure. So let's start with a nice 360-degree view of the Carcharodontosaurus. This is another nice looking figure from PNSO. Every company wants to do a Giganotosaurus, and Carcharodontosaurus usually gets the short end of the stick. But for some reason, 2021 seems to be the year of Carcharodontosaurus. We have this one, the GR Toys. The Jurassic World line is getting a Carcharodontosaurus, and Dino should be releasing that monster of a Carcharodontosaurus sometime later this year. So it's nice to see that the species is finally getting some attention. And this figure looks great. It checks all the boxes of what a Carcharodontosaurus should look like. Proportions look good. It's not shrink wrap at all. Has some nice bulk to it. My only complaints are I think the model's a little bit too small to scale with the rest of the figures from PNSO. And I'm not totally crazy about the paint scheme. I feel like it's too similar to the Allosaurus. It's almost identical, and just the painting on those bony ridges on the head look really sloppy and lazy to me, so definitely not the best paint application from PNSO, but other than those minor complaints, I think it's a nice looking figure. And let's just do a couple quick measurements. This figure, if you measure along the curve of the tail, is about 12 inches long and about 3.5 inches tall to the top of the neck. So there are two known species of Carcharodontosaurus, Carcharodontosaurus saharicus, and I'm probably going to butcher this one, Carcharodontosaurus igadensis. So I believe this figure represents saharicus from the known skeletal material that was shown off in the pamphlet. So that species, which is the larger, is between 39 and 44 feet long. So I put this figure somewhere in the 140 to the 145 scale. The smallest species is estimated between 33 and 36 feet long. So I put this in the 133 to the 136 scale range. And the only difference between the two species is just the shape of the brain case and the inner ear. And I did see a mention of a 26-foot long estimate, but I could not find any information of why Carcharodontosaurus was estimated to be that small. So there's not a lot of skeletal material for this species. Like I told you, like most of the very few remains was destroyed in World War II. And all we have right now is just some skull material. So until more material is found, I'm sure the size estimate of this animal will change. And just like all the recent released theropod figures from PNSO, it does come with this little clear acrylic stand, and all you need to do is just position it underneath the chest, and that will greatly help with stability. My model is standing for this review, but it is a little bit wobbly, and it just needs to warp like a hair, and it will fall over, so definitely use those stands. So let's zoom and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with this really nice head sculpt, really nice profile of Carcharodontosaurus. You can see some nice fine scale variation all over the skull. You got some larger scales around the orbit, larger scales around the lip region. You got the nostril right here. The eye is painted orange with a black pupil. You can see the ear canal sculpted in. And you got this black paint that lines the upper jaw and lower jaw. And I'm really not a big fan of that, especially when we get right around here where the joint for the articulation on the jaw is. It just kind of stops and it's kind of a little bit distracting. So I kind of wish this black paint kind of continued right here and blended in a little bit better. The teeth are all nicely done. They pretty much look like a Carcharodontosaurus tooth. And speaking of Carcharodontosaurus tooth, I actually do have a cast of the teeth of Carcharodontosaurus. You can see it's very knife-like and blade-like. A lot of nice serrations on here. This was meant to slice fresh, not pulverized bone like Tyrannosaurus Rex. And let's bring the figure back in. And you can see the articulated jaw does work pretty nice. Closes nice and flush. No lips on this figure. PNSO says that really not to be sculpting any of the theropod figures with lips, so that is what it is. The articulated jaw does work pretty well. Like I say, they've gotten a lot better at it. Very Papo-like in quality, and that is a compliment. I don't know why people perceive that every time I compare the articulated jaws to Papo, it's a bad thing. They are pretty much the best in the business when it comes to articulated jaws. You get some nice detail along the gums on the side, and then looking in the mouth, you can see a nicely sculpted tongue with a nice wash over it and some gloss coat to give it that wet look. And then turn the figure over looking at the roof of the mouth. You get some really nice detail. You got the nasal passages sculpted in, which is always a nice touch. And turn the figure back over. Let's take a look at the rest of the body. You can see the whole figure is covered in very fine scales. PNSO has gotten better with their last few figures, sculpting the scales in scale with each other. I know a lot of people weren't happy about the oversized scales on the Wilson T-Rex. It didn't bother me as much as it did other people, but I'm glad that they're sculpting the scales smaller on these larger figures. Like I said earlier, I'm not wild about the paint scheme. I think it could be a little bit better. I think it's too similar to the Allosaurus, and the colors kind of look kind of faded and muted. You got some brown on top of the neck with these dark stripes, and those stripes go all the way down to the tip of the tail, and the tip of the tail is done in an orange tip, and I do think that is pretty cool looking. And then you have like this pinkish color near like the hips and around the tail basin. That's all right looking. I think the pink is just a little bit too distracting. And then going down to the front arms, they are nicely sculpted. They're a lot of meat packed on them, makes them look a little bit small, but the hand claws are nicely sculpted in black paint, and they have a little bit of a gloss coat on the claws. And then going down to the main body, you can see some larger scales peppered in here and there, a lot of nice folds and wrinkles, nice fine scale detail. Going down to the legs have really nice muscle definition. You can see the kneecap right here, lots of folds and wrinkles to convey motion. And then going down to the feet are also nicely sculpted. I think they're just a hair too big, but really not that bad because it does help with stability. The toe claws are painted in black. And then turn the figure over. Yes, there it is. Our butthole check is complete. And here's the underside of the stomach. It's just pretty much a white color with a little bit of that pink coming down. And then going down to the tail. Tail is nice and thick and muscular. You have a nice thick tail base. Going all the way down, tapers off nicely. So yeah, all in all, it is a really, really nice looking Carcharodontosaurus figure. I think, we really don't have a definitive figure of this, and I think this PNSO one can be a contender. Moving on with comparison, like I said, there's not a lot of Carcharodontosaurus figures out there, but we are getting more this year. So here's the only other Carcharodontosaurus I had in my collection. The deluxe collect A version. You can see the PNSO one is vastly, vastly superior to this figure, even though I did quite like this one when I first got it. But seriously, check out the junk on the trunk on this one. This is a very wide-looking Carcharodontosaurus. And let's move on to its South American relative, Giganotosaurus. Here it is with the older PNSO version. I have to hold it because the figure comes with a base and it does not stand on its own. And, speaking of, the lipless look that PNSO has been pushing lately, some of their older stuff did have lips. This Giganotosaurus did, and their Yang Choanosaurus also did. And you can see that this Giganotosaurus absolutely dwarfs this Carcharodontosaurus. In real life, these two animals should be pretty similarly sized, and I kind of wish PNSO would just commit to a scale, because, a lot of collectors, including me, like having all the figures in the scale, and this Giganotosaurus is obviously way too big to be next to this Carcharodontosaurus. You know what, let's do one more Giga. Let's take out the Papo for its monthly shaming. And here it is with the PNSO Spinosaurus. These two species did live alongside each other in northern Africa. And here it is next to the monster GR Toys Spinosaurus. And like I said, GR Toys has their own version of Carcharodontosaurus coming out. It's actually, I think mine shipped from Dan's. I should probably have it pretty soon. And their version actually scales with this Spinosaurus. And here it is with PNSO's Allosaurus. You can see how the paint schemes are pretty similar. You know, they're not identical, but they share a lot of the same shades and colors. And like I said, I just wish this figure had a much different color scheme. I just think they look too similar next to each other. And here it is with PNSO's Fatty Pig McFatty Pants. And lastly, here it is with Wilson. This T-Rex is bigger than this Carcharodontosaurus figure. You know, in real life, Giga and Carcharodontosaurus should be about the same size as T-Rex or a little bit bigger. So, like I said, my bigger complaint with this figure, I just wish it was just a little bit bigger. You know, if they went bigger, it'd probably be a Dinosaur Museum figure, probably cost around $60, and I would be okay with that. So, final thoughts on this figure. I think it's a great looking Carcharodontosaurus. It really nails the proportion and look of the animal. The only things I'm not crazy about is the size. I think it's a little bit too small, and I'm just not crazy about the paint scheme. I think it could definitely be better. But if you're looking to add a Carcharodontosaurus to your collection right now, I think we can consider this one the definitive version on the market. This figure retails for around $40, and I end up getting this from Dan's Dinosaur. Link to his site is down below in the description. And I wonder what else PNSO has planned for us. I know there was a leak of a Triceratops based on the American Museum specimen. There was an Edmontonia leak, so I'm sure they have a lot more stuff coming out this year, and they've been teasing a lot of artwork of different theropod species, so I'm sure we're probably getting figure versions of everything they've shown off so far. It's just a matter of when, not if. So that would do it for the review. I have some older Amber collection stuff that I took advantage of with that Target 50% off sale. So be on the lookout for the reviews of those figures, and hopefully I get that GR Toys Carcharodontosaurus in soon. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously and is greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.